Melinda went into high school lacking one thing: a chance. That chance had been taken by someone at a summer party, landing her in a situation where everyone hated her. They had no idea what had really happened. We read the book Speak by Laurie Anderson. From her first breath of the stuffy Merriweather High air, Melinda already had no friends. She's been isolated from her ex-friends, who have since found themselves in many different groups, none of which included Melinda. The only girl who had not yet rejected her was a girl who had no idea what had happened. Heather, from Ohio, was your typical girl next door, and immediately befriended Melinda. Among the many differences between these unlikely friends was the fact that Heather wanted nothing more than to be part of a group. Well, actually, 5 groups. That was her goal. She was close to becoming a part of a group that was seeming to pull her away from Melinda. Melinda, on the other hand, was only interested in finishing her art project, which had been assigned to her by the only teacher she actually liked, Mr. Freeman. It was her year-long project that she'd spent hours upon hours on, trying to draw a tree that made you feel something. The only other thing that wouldn't leave her mind was it. It seemed to always be there, haunting her. It creeps up behind her and sends shivers down her spine. It whispers, "Fresh meat." It has found her again. Melinda can't move. It's like she's not there. Her mind drifts back to that night at the party. She's trying to get some fresh air after one too many drinks, when it walks up behind her. It puts its hand around her waist. Melinda turns around to see Andy Evans, the most popular boy in school. He pulls her hips closer to his. They are dancing, and next thing she knows, they left. She quickly flashes back to the present time and focuses her attention on the paperclip she had bent open. The scratch across her wrist made her wonder. If a suicide attempt is a cry for help, then what is this? But the pain disappeared through the windows of blood she had opened, unaware that the fresh air she thought she would be able to breathe through these small cracks wasn't able to satisfy her loneliness. Now at school, the drift between Melinda and Heather was so clear you could see it with your eyes closed. They both knew it too, but for Melinda, her time couldn't be spent on anything but what she had just seen. Her ex-best friend Rachel with Andy. Rachel with it. The closest thing Melinda has to a calm space is where she can't help but run. Her mind flickers, more than the light in the old closet, in and out of reality, in and out of that night. She goes into the forest, out of the dance party, into its arms, but out of safety. How could she have known what to do when she couldn't even remember how to speak, how to say no? The screaming in her own mind is the loudest silence she'd ever heard, and it spoke volumes to Andy. When she finds a way to speak, her helpless words are blocked by his hand. The sound of a pant zipper suddenly became so traumatizing to her that she couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. She could only dial on the closest phone she found, 911. She was lost and confused, but she knew this was an emergency. All everyone else knew was that Melinda had called the cops on the party. Her screams were silent to everyone else, but beat at Melinda's head so hard she could never forget. The sound of the bell replaces a ringing in her ears, and Melinda wakes up and finds herself right back where she was, alone. In her voice, Melinda finds Rachel in the library. Telling her what had really happened that night only became fuel for Rachel's fire. The fire against Melinda, telling her she was lying, that she was just jealous of her new relationship with Andy. If that didn't burn enough, Heather also had some heat in her heart. She told Melinda that she had found her group, which meant she was no longer friends with Melinda. Back to the beginning, Melinda thought. Back to the closet. Back to being alone. But the safe place quickly turned into a horrific room, where history was going to repeat itself, when Melinda heard a creaking of the old door. It slammed shut behind Andy. it locked the door and didn't waste any time before telling Melinda how angry he was. Rachel had found out that Melinda had been telling the truth. Andy was caught, and now so was Melinda. Caught in her nightmare. He tried to do it again. He tried to hurt her. She grabbed a piece of broken glass and held it to his throat. She screamed, and the lacrosse team finally heard. They found them, and she ran. She never looked back. After all this time, this whole year of trying and failing, Melinda could see that her tree represented this. She decided it was time to break through. One last attempt and she had it. The tree looked perfectly imperfect. She knew how it got there. She knew how she'd come so far. One person, Mr. Freeman. It was time to tell him what had happened. To tell him the truth. To speak.